I finally bought my dream home and invited my family to the housewarming. Not a single one showed up. They all went to my brother's new apartment instead. As I flipped on the lights, my phone blew up with a text from my mom. "We need to talk." Now, the moment I finally bought my dream home, I thought it would be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it became the day my family ripped my heart out and showed me just how little I truly mattered to them. My name's Emmys, and for 29 years, I'd been the quiet kid, the responsible one, the one who worked for everything. Growing up in a pretty standard, middle-class suburb of Chicago, my parents, Richard and Julia, worked hard. Dad was an accountant, Mom a second-grade teacher. We had what we needed, but luxuries were always carefully budgeted. But even from the start, it was clear, my younger brother, Garrett, was the golden child. He was 3 years younger than me, and he was everything I wasn't. Athletic, outgoing, effortlessly popular. While I was in the basement taking apart computers, Garrett was the star quarterback, bringing home trophies and new girlfriends every month. Don't get me wrong, Garrett wasn't a bad kid, not really. He was charismatic, could charm anyone. But underneath that smile was a deep irresponsibility that my parents seemed totally blind to. He'd forget chores, miss curfew, then talk his way out of any consequence with these creative excuses my parents always bought. Meanwhile, my standards were totally different. One late homework assignment for me. A full-blown lecture on responsibility. My interest in computers was just a quirky hobby. I remember winning the state programming competition in high school. It was a Saturday, the same day as one of Garrett's football games. I stood on stage, trophy in hand, scanning the audience for my parents. But it was my Aunt Meredith who came up. "They're really sorry, honey," she said. "But you know how important these games are for Garrett's college prospects." That stung. It still stings. College was more of the same. I got into Northwestern for computer science, a huge achievement for me. But my parents' first reaction was sticker shock. "We'll help where we can," they said, "but you'll need to take out loans and work part-time." So I did, juggling 3 jobs and a 4.0 GPA. Garrett? He got a football scholarship to Illinois State. When he lost it freshman year because his grades tanked, my parents dipped into their retirement savings to keep him there. "He needs the college experience," they'd say. "He's finding himself." I graduated with honors, but my parents left my graduation ceremony early to drive 3 hours to Garrett's end-of-year party. I try not to take it personally, so I channeled everything into my career. Over 5 years, I climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious tech company in Chicago. Garrett? He bounced between jobs: bartender, personal trainer, sales rep for some supplement company. Each new gig, my parents would announce with such enthusiasm, "This is the one that will stick." None of them did. Often, these job changes meant he'd move back home, living rent-free until he got back on his feet. Through all of it, I lived simply. Shared an apartment with roommates, even with a great salary. Drove the same used Honda from college. Every bonus, every raise, went straight into savings. My dream wasn't flashy. A craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood, space for a home office, maybe a family one day. A place that was truly mine, a testament to my hard work. After nearly 6 years, I had enough for a substantial down payment. The Chicago housing market was brutal, but I was patient. Then I found it. A beautiful 1920s craftsman with original woodwork, updated systems, and a backyard with mature oak trees. It was perfect. The day I first toured it, I just knew. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows. A stone fireplace with a hand-carved mantel. A modern kitchen that still felt vintage. 3 bedrooms upstairs, one perfect for my home office. It was at the very top of my budget, but I could do it. I submitted an offer that day, a bit over asking, with a heartfelt letter to the owners about why this house meant so much. 2 anxious days later, my offer was accepted. I was a homeowner. I shared my excitement in the family group chat. My parents responded with thumbs-up emojis and "that's nice, honey" messages. Garrett didn't respond at all, but I still hoped once they saw it, they'd understand this milestone. Over the next 3 weeks, I poured myself into making it a home. Painted, splurged on a cozy sectional and a solid oak dining table. Hung artwork I'd collected. Each addition made the space more me. Then I planned the housewarming. I wanted my family to be the first to see it, to share in this achievement before friends and colleagues. I sent a digital invitation with photos, setting the party for a Saturday afternoon 3 weeks out. "Come celebrate with me," I wrote. Food and drinks provided. No gifts necessary. Your presence is all I want. I texted everyone individually, stressing how much their attendance would mean. Responses trickled in. Grandparents regretfully declined, but promised to visit. Everyone else was positive. Wouldn't miss it, Aunt Meredith texted. My parents confirmed they'd drive up. We're bringing your favorite childhood dessert, Mom added. Garrett was the only one silent. After 5 days, I texted him again. Hey, not sure if you saw my invite. Would love to have you. Let me know. He replied an hour later. Might stop by if I'm not busy. Congrats, I guess. A week later, Mom called. I was thinking, she said. Since Garrett hasn't confirmed, why don't we just pick him up on our way? That way, he'll definitely come. I hesitated. Garrett and I weren't close, and his lukewarm response wasn't exactly inspiring. But I wanted harmony. Sure, I said, that would be fine. Great, she chirped. He's been staying with us again. His roommate situation didn't work out. Did he tell you he's looking at apartments? He's really getting his life together this time. I murmured something supportive, though I'd heard this narrative countless times. The conversation shifted to party planning, and Mom started suggesting food Garrett would enjoy, even though my menu was already set. As the day approached, I prepped like crazy. Ordered catering, gourmet sandwiches, artisan cheeses, fresh fruit. Stocked the bar with Dad's favorite whiskey, Mom's wine, craft beers. Made sure there were gluten-free options for my cousin Lisa. The morning before, I picked up fresh flowers. Everything was perfect, ready for the celebration I'd imagined for years. The day of the housewarming, I woke up buzzing with excitement and nerves. Sunlight streamed through my window. I took a moment to just appreciate waking up in my home, in a bed I chose, a room I painted. This sense of ownership felt so precious. The party started at 3 p.m. I did one last sweep, arranged furniture, set up the drink station. Caterers arrived at 2:30. I tipped them generously, a flash of pride. My home was immaculate, flowers vibrant, music soft. It was perfect. 3 p.m. came. No one. 3:20, still nothing. I sent a group text. Food and drinks are ready. Looking forward to seeing everyone soon. Mom replied, running a bit behind. Start without us. By 4 p.m., not a single guest. I paced. This made no sense. Someone should have arrived. At 4:30, I called Mom. Voicemail. Dad. Same. I texted Aunt Meredith. Are you close? Everything okay? Her response, 10 minutes later. So, sorry for the delay. We'll be at the party soon. At the party. Not my house. Odd. With growing dread, I opened Instagram. My cousin Lisa's story, posted 15 minutes ago, showed a living room I didn't recognize, filled with my entire family. My parents smiling. Uncle Stephen chatting with Aunt Meredith. And in the center of it all, Garrett, raising a beer, a set of keys dangling from his other hand. The caption, celebrating G's new bachelor pad. My stomach clenched. I scrolled. Dad, arm around Garrett. Proud of this guy taking a big step. Another cousin. Party time at Uncle Garrett's new place. With shaking hands, I called Lisa. She picked up, music and laughter blaring. Hello, she shouted. Lisa, it's Emmy's. Where are you right now? A pause. Then, muffled. Oh, Emmy's, hi. Her voice became awkwardly bright. We're at Garrett's new apartment for his apartment warming. Didn't you know? No, I said flatly. I didn't know. I'm actually hosting my housewarming party right now. The one I invited everyone to 2 weeks ago. Another, longer pause. Oh my God, Emmy's. Was that today? I'm so sorry. I got confused with the dates. Garrett just decided yesterday to have this thing. And everyone was already planning to come to your area. My area? I felt my voice rising. My house is nowhere near Garrett's apartment. I took a deep breath. Lisa, were you planning to come to my housewarming at all today? Of course, she said quickly. We were going to stop by after this. It's just that Garrett really needed the family support right now, you know? He's finally getting his life together. And your parents thought it would be good to encourage him. You're already so successful and established, and Garrett needs the extra push. I ended the call. I couldn't listen anymore. With a hollow feeling, I opened our family group chat. I scrolled way back, finding an exchange I hadn't been included in. Garrett had sent a message yesterday. Hey family, got approved for an awesome apartment today? Last minute availability. Having some people over tomorrow at 3 to check it out. Parents already coming. Anyone else around? Everyone had responded enthusiastically. No one had mentioned my event, scheduled for the exact same time. I walked slowly through my empty house, turning on lights as the sun began to fade. The food sat untouched, the wines uncorked. The flowers, which had seemed so vibrant hours ago, now looked garish in the quiet emptiness. As I turned on the last light in the living room, my phone buzzed. A new message from my mother. "We need to talk now." I stared at that message. A storm of emotions. Anger, hurt, betrayal. They raged inside me as I stood alone in my perfectly prepared home. My thumb hovered, wanting to type something scathing. Instead, I set the phone down and sank onto my new sofa. The silence was deafening. This wasn't how today was supposed to go. This was supposed to be a day of celebration, of acknowledgement, of finally stepping out of Garrett's shadow and into my own light. Instead, I was an afterthought, my achievement deemed less important than Garrett's latest whim. I picked up my phone again. Couldn't resist scrolling through more posts about Garrett's impromptu gathering. Each image was a knife twist. My entire extended family, crowded into what looked like a generic apartment. Nothing like the carefully restored historic home I'd saved years for. My cousin Derek had even posted a video tour, narrated by an enthusiastic Garrett. And this is the living room, perfect for game days. Bedrooms through there. King-size bed already delivered. Kitchen small, but who cooks anyway, right? The comments were full of praise. Such a great space. Perfect bachelor pad. My father had commented, "Big moment for my boy." I switched to the family group chat I wasn't in. The conversation showed Garrett had only viewed the apartment yesterday morning, signed the lease immediately, and decided to host a spontaneous gathering. No planning, just a last-minute text. And everyone had dropped everything for him. The most painful discovery, a screenshot someone shared of my parents' conversation with the landlord. "We'll cover the security deposit and first 3 months," my father had written. "Just don't mention it to Garrett. We want him to feel independent." So Garrett hadn't even secured this apartment himself. He was being subsidized again, while I'd scrimped and saved for years to buy my home on my own terms. The injustice of it burned like acid. I tried calling my parents again. Still no answer. Finally, I called Aunt Meredith, who was always a little more understanding. She answered, her voice hushed. "Emmys, I can't really talk right now." "Then just listen," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I want to understand what happened today." Everyone confirmed for my housewarming, an event I planned weeks ago. Then Garrett decides yesterday to have people over, and suddenly my event doesn't matter? Aunt Meredith sighed. "It's complicated, honey. Your brother, he made it sound like an emergency. Said he finally had a breakthrough and needed family support right away. You know how he can be." "And what about my breakthrough?" I challenged. "What about my support? You're different, Emmys. You've always been so independent, so capable. Garrett needs more guidance, more encouragement. So being responsible and self-sufficient means I deserve less family support, less celebration, less love?" My voice cracked on that last word. "Of course not," she said quickly. "It's just that your parents feel Garrett is at a critical juncture. He's struggled so much, and they think this apartment is a sign he's finally maturing. They didn't want to dilute that momentum. By coming to my housewarming, the home I saved for 6 years to buy, that would dilute his momentum." Aunt Meredith's voice dropped even lower. "Your mother suggested stopping by your place after Garrett's gathering, but he got upset. Said if people left his party early to go to yours, it would make him feel second best. Your parents didn't want to trigger his insecurities." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Heaven forbid Garrett feel insecure. Meanwhile, I'm standing alone in a house full of food and flowers, looking like an idiot. "I'm sorry, Emmys. I should have stood up more. We all should have." In the background, I heard Mom's voice calling for Meredith. "I have to go," she said hastily. "Your parents were talking about coming over later. Just try to be understanding, okay?" After hanging up, I wandered through each empty room, turning on every light, as if illuminating the space could somehow fill the void left by my family's absence. In the dining room, the untouched charcuterie board. In the living room, the carefully arranged furniture waited for guests who never arrived. Upstairs, in what would be my home office, I had set up a small display of my professional achievements, framed certificates, a published article, a photo with my team. Achievements that apparently weren't worth my family's time to acknowledge. I was contemplating packing up the food when my phone lit up again. An Instagram notification. Garrett had tagged me in a post. With a sense of dread, I opened the app. The photo showed Garrett in his new kitchen, raising a beer bottle. The caption, "New Beginnings." Sorry, Emmys couldn't make it to the celebration. Next time, bro. I hadn't been invited. He was publicly pretending I had chosen not to come, rather than acknowledging he had hijacked my event and stolen my family's attention on my special day. The calculated cruelty of it hit me hard. As I sat there, processing this latest insult, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my parents. Garrett slouched behind them, looking at his phone. It was nearly 8 p.m., 5 hours after my party was supposed to begin. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. "Well, look who finally remembered I exist," I said, unable to keep the bitterness out of my voice. My mother stepped forward with artificial brightness. "Emmys, honey, we're so sorry about the mix-up today. Can we come in? Your house looks lovely from the outside." I stepped aside wordlessly. Mom made a show of looking around. "Oh, Emmys, this is just beautiful. Look at these original hardwood floors, Richard. And that stained glass. They don't make craftsmanship like this anymore." Dad nodded, hands in his pockets, offering a perfunctory, "Nice place, son. Real solid investment." Garrett trailed behind, barely glancing, still scrolling his phone. When he did look up, it was with a dismissive shrug. "It's cool, I guess. Kind of old-fashioned, though, isn't it? My place has smart technology built in. Your place that Mom and Dad are paying for." The words escaped before I could stop them. An awkward silence fell. Mom recovered first, her laugh brittle. "Let's not start with negativity, Emmys. We're here now, and we want to see everything. Give us the tour." I remained rooted. "Why are you here exactly? The party ended hours ago. The party none of you bothered to attend, despite confirming weeks in advance." Dad cleared his throat. "There was a misunderstanding with the scheduling. These things happen. No need to make a federal case out of it." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, incredulous. "You all RSVP'd to my event. Then Garrett decided yesterday to have people over, and suddenly everyone forgot about my housewarming. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice." Mom's smile faltered. "Honey, you have to understand. Garrett needed our support today. This apartment is a big step for him. And buying a house wasn't a big step for me. Something I worked and saved for years to achieve, without anyone's help." "That's different," Dad interjected. "You've always been the responsible one. You don't need the same kind of encouragement Garrett does. He's still finding his way." Garrett smirked, quickly composing his face when Mom glanced his way. "Yeah, bro. Not everyone can be perfect like you. Some of us are still figuring things out." "At 32? I challenged. "You've been figuring things out for over a decade, while I've been working 60-hour weeks and living with roommates to save money." Mom stepped between us, physically and metaphorically. "Emmys, please. Your brother is making real progress now. This apartment is just the beginning. He's interviewing for a new sales position next week that has real potential." "Let me guess," I said flatly. "Dad, put in a word with someone from his golf club." My father flushed. "Networking is part of life, Emmys. I would have done the same for you if you'd asked." "I never asked because I wanted to earn things on my own merit. Something you've never expected from Garrett." Garrett's facade cracked. "Oh, here we go with the golden child complex again. It's not my fault you've got a chip on your shoulder the size of Lake Michigan." "A chip on my shoulder? Are you serious? Mom and Dad missed my college graduation ceremony to attend your frat party. They've missed every significant event in my life while dropping everything for your most trivial needs. And now they're literally paying for your apartment while pretending it's some great achievement on your part." The room fell silent. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "How did you know about that?" Dad finally asked. "I saw the screenshots in the family chat. The one I wasn't included in, by the way. I know you're covering his security deposit and first 3 months' rent. Probably his furniture too, given that he couldn't hold a job long enough to save for it." Mom wrung her hands. "Emmys, you have to understand, your brother doesn't have what you have. Because he hasn't worked for it. And he never will. As long as you keep bailing him out and treating his minimum efforts like major accomplishments." "That's enough," Dad said sharply. "We came here to smooth things over, not to be attacked." "Smooth things over? You ruined what should have been one of the proudest days of my life. I spent weeks planning that party. I catered food for 15 people. I bought Dad's favorite whiskey and Mom's favorite wine. I made sure there were gluten-free options for Lisa. And none of you could be bothered to even text me that you weren't coming until hours after you were supposed to be here." We got caught up in the excitement at Garrett's, Mom admitted weakly. Time just got away from us. Right? I said bitterly. Because Garrett's last-minute apartment viewing was so much more exciting than the home I spent 6 years saving for. Throughout this, I noticed Garrett's demeanor shifting. When our parents were looking, he had this wounded innocence. But when their attention was elsewhere, I caught glimpses of something else, smugness, even triumph. He was enjoying this. You know what? Garrett said, affecting a conciliatory tone. I didn't realize my little get-together would conflict with your thing. Maybe we can reschedule your housewarming for next weekend? I'm pretty busy with apartment setup and job interviews, but I could probably spare an hour or two. The condescension in his voice was the final straw. 29 years of swallowed resentment, of being overlooked while Garrett was coddled for minimal effort, came boiling to the surface. There won't be a rescheduled housewarming, I said, my voice steady despite the emotion churning inside me. At least not when you're invited to. I'm done pretending this is a functional family dynamic. I'm done being the responsible one who gets taken for granted while Garrett gets celebrated for basic adult behavior. Emmys, my mother gasped. You don't mean that. We're family. Families should support each other equally. Families should acknowledge achievements. Families shouldn't consistently favor one child over another for decades. We don't favor Garrett, my father protested. But his voice lacked conviction. Really? When's the last time you dropped everything to attend something important to me? When have you ever put my needs above Garrett's? Can you name a single instance? The silence that followed was damning. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Here's what's going to happen now. You three are going to leave. I'm going to reevaluate what kind of relationship I want with people who have consistently shown me I'm an afterthought. If and when I decide I want you in my life again, it will be on my terms, with clear boundaries and expectations of mutual respect. Garrett scoffed. Dramatic much? It was just a party, bro. I turned to him directly. It wasn't just a party, and you know it. This was calculated. You've always needed to be the center of attention, and you couldn't stand the thought of the family celebrating me for once. So, you manufactured an emergency life event and manipulated everyone into prioritizing you again. For a brief moment, Garrett's mask slipped completely. I saw raw anger flash across his features. Whatever. Helps you sleep at night, he muttered. My father stepped forward, his face flushed. Now you listen here, Emmys. You can't speak to your brother that way. And you can't cut your family off over a misunderstanding about a party. What will people think? I don't care what people think anymore, Dad. I care about being respected. I care about being valued. And clearly, those aren't things I can expect from this family. If that's how you feel, my father said stiffly, maybe we should go. I think that's best. My mother began to cry. Please, Emmys, don't do this. We can work this out. Maybe someday, I said, softening slightly at her tears despite myself. But not tonight. Tonight, I need you to leave. As they filed toward the door, Garrett paused. He leaned in, speaking low enough our parents couldn't hear. You'll cave first, he said confidently. You always do. And when you come crawling back, begging to be part of the family again, I'll be sure to remind everyone how you overreacted and ruined my big day. I met his gaze steadily. Enjoy your subsidized apartment, Garrett. I'll be here, in the home I earned, living my life on my own terms. Let's see which one of us is happier in the long run. I closed the door behind them, the sound echoing through my empty house. For the first time that day, the silence felt right, necessary. The beginning of something new. The days following that confrontation were eerily quiet. My phone, usually buzzing with family messages, was silent. No calls from Mom, no forwarded jokes from Dad, no random tech requests. It was like I'd ceased to exist in their world. A feeling both painful and strangely liberating. I took a week off work to process everything and settle into my new home. Each morning, I reminded myself, this house was a testament to my hard work and discipline. No one could take that away, even if they'd tainted the celebration. By the third day, the silence was broken by a text from Aunt Meredith, thinking of you. Call when you're ready. I appreciated it, but I wasn't ready to engage yet. I needed to sort through my feelings. Instead, I called a therapist a colleague had recommended. Dr. Andrea Winters had an opening, and I found myself in her comfortable office, pouring out 29 years of family dynamics in 90 minutes. What you're describing, she explained, is a classic golden child versus scapegoat dynamic. It's common, but that doesn't make it any less damaging. The overlooked child often develops a strong sense of self-reliance, but can struggle with feelings of worthiness and belonging. That's exactly it, I admitted. I've always felt like I had to earn love that Garrett gets unconditionally. Over the next few weeks, those therapy sessions became an anchor. Dr. Winters helped me see that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary for my emotional health. We worked on strategies for healthier relationships, even with family, if and when I chose to reconnect. Meanwhile, my colleagues noticed something was off. When my team lead, Marcus, asked if everything was okay, I shared a condensed version of what happened. His response surprised me. "That's awful, Emmys. Listen, we were going to take you out for drinks to celebrate the new house anyway. What if we turn it into a proper housewarming instead? Nothing fancy, just the team showing up to celebrate your achievement." Before I could protest, the plan was in motion. That Saturday, 10 colleagues arrived at my door with bottles of wine, homemade dishes, and small gifts. They filled my home with genuine laughter and warmth, admiring each room, asking thoughtful questions about my renovation plans. Marcus's wife, an interior designer, brought a beautiful hand-painted ceramic bowl. "Every home needs something unique," she said, "something with a story." As we gathered around my dining table, sharing food and stories, I realized something profound. Family isn't just about blood. These people, who celebrated my achievement without comparison or condition, were showing me what genuine support looked like. The following week brought an unexpected development. A package arrived via courier. No return address, just my name and new address. Inside, wrapped in tissue, were items from my childhood: a framed photo of me at high school graduation, a science fair medal, a small wooden box I'd made in shop class. Beneath them, a handwritten note from my paternal grandmother: "These belong in your new home. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to celebrate with you. Your grandfather and I are so proud of the man you've become. Love transcends disagreements. Call me when you're ready." I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by these fragments of my past, and wept. Not from sadness, but from the realization that not everyone in my family saw me as an afterthought. Some had been watching, noticing, valuing me all along, even if they hadn't always known how to show it. Over the next few weeks, I began reaching out to extended family individually. I called my grandmother first, thanking her, and we had a long, honest conversation about the family patterns that had gone unaddressed. "Your grandfather and I always saw it," she admitted. "We should have said something sooner." Conversations with aunts, uncles, and cousins followed. Some were defensive at first, but many admitted they'd observed the imbalance. "We just didn't know how to intervene," Aunt Meredith confessed. Family systems are complicated. These conversations were sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately healing. I wasn't asking them to choose sides, just to acknowledge my experience and consider more balanced ways of engaging. Meanwhile, my home was becoming a true sanctuary. I joined a homeowners association, connected with neighbors, planted a vegetable garden. Each addition made the space more mine, a physical manifestation of the independent life I was building. The silence from my immediate family stretched into weeks, then months. Through therapy, I understood this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The space allowed me to strengthen my sense of self outside the role I'd always played. I nurtured reciprocal relationships, colleagues who became friends, old acquaintances. Then, nearly 3 months after our confrontation, I received a text from an unexpected source: "Garrett, my lease is up for renewal. Parents said I need to start paying my own rent. Can we talk?" I didn't respond immediately. Dr. Winters and I discussed it. "What do you want from a relationship with your brother?" she asked. "Not what you think you should want, but what would actually be healthy for you." After careful consideration, I replied with a simple invitation to meet at a neutral coffee shop. When the day arrived, Garrett was already waiting, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. The usual confidence and charm were dimmed. "Parents cut me off," he said without preamble. "Said it was time I stood on my own 2 feet. Apparently, that conversation with you really shook them up." "I'm sorry if things are difficult," I said carefully. "But I'm not sorry for speaking the truth." Garrett stared into his coffee. "I always thought you had it easy. The smart one, the responsible one, the one who never seemed to struggle with anything." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "I never realized you were working that hard, saving for so long for your house. I guess I just assumed things came easily to you." "Nothing has ever come easily to me, Garrett. That's the point, you, Mom," and Dad could never seem to grasp. A long silence. Finally, Garrett spoke again. I lost the apartment. Couldn't afford it once Mom and Dad stopped paying. I'm staying on a friend's couch until I figure something out. What about that sales job Dad lined up? Garrett's laugh was hollow. Turns out you actually have to show up consistently to keep a job. Who knew? He hesitated. I'm thinking of going back to school. Community college, business administration. Something practical. That sounds like a good plan, I said genuinely. Yeah, well, had to grow up sometime, right? He fidgeted. Listen, I know I was a jerk about the housewarming. About a lot of things. I'm not good at not being the center of attention. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was more self-awareness than I'd ever heard from him. Thank you for acknowledging that, I said simply. So, are we good? He asked, a shadow of his old charm returning. Not yet, I replied honestly. But maybe we can start working in that direction. 2 weeks later, my parents reached out, asking to visit. I agreed, setting clear parameters. A short visit, focused on honest conversation. When they arrived, I was surprised. They looked older, more uncertain. We've been doing some reflection, Mom said once we were seated. And some counseling, she added, almost reluctantly. Your confrontation forced us to look at patterns we didn't want to acknowledge, Dad continued. The way we've enabled Garrett at your expense. The way we've taken your responsibility and independence for granted instead of celebrating it. We're trying to do better, Mom added. With both of you. Setting healthier boundaries with Garrett hasn't been easy, but it was necessary. And we want to truly see you, truly celebrate your accomplishments, and support your journey. I didn't rush to forgiveness or promises of instant closeness. Instead, I thanked them for their reflection and suggested we take small steps toward rebuilding trust. A monthly dinner, perhaps. Open communication about expectations. Family therapy sessions if they were willing. As fall turned to winter, these tentative steps continued. Some conversations were difficult, old patterns threatening to reassert themselves. But there was a new awareness, a commitment to doing things differently that gave me cautious hope. The first holiday season in my new home became a test. Instead of the traditional family gathering with its old dynamics, I hosted a different kind of celebration. I invited a mix of people who had supported me, friends from work, neighbors, extended family I'd reconnected with. And yes, my parents and Garrett, under the clear understanding that this was my home and my gathering. To my surprise and relief, the evening unfolded with genuine warmth. My mother brought her famous apple pie without trying to take over the kitchen. My father admired the improvements I'd made, no backhanded comments about expense. Garrett, now in community college and working part-time, engaged respectfully with my friends and even helped clean up. As everyone departed, I stood on my front porch, watching taillights disappear, a profound sense of peace settling over me. This house, once a symbol of an achievement I feared would go unrecognized, had become something more valuable, the foundation for a new way of being, both with myself and with others. 6 months after that disastrous housewarming, my house had transformed from an empty shell into a genuine home. The living room, once staged for a party that never happened, now bore the comfortable imprints of real life. Books spilled from the shelves I'd built. A hand-knotted rug added warmth. Photos were displayed, not just of family, but of the broader circle of connections I'd cultivated. Therapy with Dr. Winters continued. What I notice, she remarked during one session, is how much more comfortable you seem in your own authority. You're no longer seeking external validation for your choices. She was right. The painful rupture with my family had forced me to find validation from within, to trust my own perceptions and values in a way I never had before. This internal anchoring made all my relationships healthier. I was choosing connections based on mutual respect, rather than desperate attempts to prove my worth. My relationship with my parents had stabilized into something cautiously positive. We maintained clear boundaries. I visited them once a month, and they respected my space. My father had taken up woodworking and crafted a beautiful coffee table for my living room, perhaps his way of tangibly acknowledging my home. My mother called weekly, and our conversations felt more authentic than they had in years. Garrett was the most surprising development. Without our parents' constant safety net, he'd stumbled, but eventually found his footing. He completed his first semester of community college with solid grades and moved into a modest studio apartment he could afford. Our relationship was tentative but improving. We met occasionally for coffee or a meal, carefully avoiding the competitive dynamic that had defined us. During one such meeting, Garrett confessed something unexpected. "I was jealous of you," he said, stirring his coffee. "Not of your success exactly, but of your certainty. You always knew what you wanted and worked toward it systematically. I've been bouncing around like a pinball, waiting for something to click. I think I envied your ease," I admitted in return. "Everything seemed to come naturally to you. Friends, charm, athletic ability. All the things our parents visibly valued. These honest exchanges didn't erase the past, but they created possibility for a different kind of brotherhood, one based on adult understanding rather than childhood rivalry." The extended family had largely realigned. After initial awkwardness, most relatives had made efforts to connect with me individually, independent of larger family gatherings. My grandmother, in particular, became a regular visitor, often bringing plants for my garden or recipes. "I always saw myself in you," she told me once. "The quiet one who notices everything but doesn't always speak up." Perhaps the most profound change was in how I approached holidays and celebrations. Rather than trying to fit myself into traditional family gatherings that often left me feeling overlooked, I began creating new traditions that reflected my values. For Thanksgiving, I hosted a Friendsgiving with colleagues, neighbors, and friends. For Christmas, I volunteered at a local shelter before joining a smaller family dinner on my own terms. My home became the setting for these new traditions. Work life flourished. The boundaries I'd established personally extended professionally. I became more selective, more vocal about my contributions, more confident in negotiating for what I deserved. This resulted in a promotion to senior developer and the opportunity to lead a team on a major new initiative. One rainy Saturday, about 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected text from Garrett. "Found some old family photos while cleaning out my storage unit. Thought you might want some for your house. Okay to drop by tomorrow." When he arrived, he was carrying a shoebox filled with photographs spanning decades. We sat at my dining table, sorting through them, reminiscing and laughing. Near the bottom was a photo I'd never seen. Me at about 7, intensely focused on building something with a computer kit, while Garrett, around 4, watched with undisguised admiration. "I used to think you were the smartest person in the world," he said quietly, looking at the photo. "I wanted to be just like you, but I couldn't figure out how your brain worked. It was easier to go the other direction. You know, if I couldn't be the smart one, I'd be the fun one, the athletic one, the popular one." "I had no idea," I admitted. "I always thought you looked down on my interests." "Nah, man. I was intimidated by them." He handed me the photo. "This one should definitely go on your wall." That night, after Garrett left, I framed the photograph and hung it in my home office. Not as a symbol of reconciliation, necessarily, but as a reminder of the complexity of relationships, the way perspectives can differ so dramatically, and the possibility of seeing old patterns through fresh eyes. As spring arrived, bringing new growth to my garden and fresh light through my windows, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The house that had once represented a personal achievement to be validated by others had become something far more significant, a physical manifestation of my values, boundaries, and authentic connections. The failed housewarming that had caused such pain now seemed like a necessary catalyst, forcing issues to the surface that had simmered beneath family dynamics for decades. The confrontation that followed had been painful, but ultimately freeing, allowing everyone involved to examine and adjust patterns that weren't serving any of us well. My therapist had once asked me what home truly meant. At the time, I gave a superficial answer. Now, I understood it was much more. Home was the space where I could be fully myself, without contortion or apology. It was built not just of wood and stone, but of boundaries, self-respect, and connections that honored rather than diminished my worth. One evening, as I sat on my back porch watching fireflies illuminate the garden I'd planted with my own hands, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Your father and I were thinking of stopping by this weekend if you're free. He finished another woodworking project he wants to show you." I typed back, "Sunday afternoon works. Looking forward to it." And I realized, with quiet amazement, that I genuinely was looking forward to it. Not with the anxious hope for validation that would have colored such a visit in the past, but with the calm assurance of someone who knows their worth isn't dependent on others' recognition. The house around me, once just a structure I had saved for and purchased, had become a true home, filled with memories I had chosen to create, relationships I had intentionally nurtured, and a peace that came from living authentically. The journey hadn't been what I expected, but it had led exactly where I needed to go. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who consistently overlooked your accomplishments? How did you find the courage to establish boundaries with loved ones? Share your experiences below. Remember, building a life that honors your true self is the most important home you'll ever create.